Welcome to the Draftstars AFL show with Smatho and Roody.
Yes, with thanks to Daily Fantasy Rankings, your number one resource for AFLDFS, and to Draftstars, the place where you play your AFLDFS. This is the Draftstars AFL show with Smatho and Roody. We've reached to the final home and away game of the season, and what a cracking game for Friday night footy. It's the Lions and the Demons at the Gabba, but I think this game kind of sits in the corner against what other things have been happening this week as I bring in Roody live from his headquarters in Melbourne. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. It has been a big week in football, Smatho, and it will be, hopefully, an even bigger weekend in football as well.
It certainly is. We are gearing up for the AFL Draftstars live final at Timbiat on Sunday. As you can see on the banner down below, play up your best bet in consultation with Draftstars. They're bringing the live final betting market. It's been I had a few emails earlier this week saying when can I bet on myself? When can I get on my favourite Draftstars players? And lo and behold, yesterday the market was finally released. Mate, let me bring up the actual market while we're talking about it. 210 tickets, so there's 157 players. So you got to bear in mind, 157 runner field. You are going to find some excellent prices on some particular fancy guys. So 18 plus, gamble responsibly. Gamblers Helpline 1-800-855-805. But $23 is the favourite there at Will and 09, followed by Lampy and then obviously Brody 4 at $29. All the way down here to $251 for the blokes like Jason Miggs, I've seen there. Lamousis, the guy who came second last year, 251 to 1. Cookies won a ticket last week at 200 to 1. So that is available at Play Up. If you go to the Draftstars lobby, you'll see the banner in the lobby itself. They'll take you straight to this market. This will close on the first bounce there at 3:20 p.m. there, Rudy. Now, I'm sure you're a highly professional gambler when it comes to this kind of stuff, and I'm sure that you go through the spreadsheets and look at profit and loss every second day when you're not with the kids at school. So insights, please. Who are you fancying here for the Draftstars live final?
Yeah, look, I suppose there's two ways to play this one. And firstly, I don't think I've laid a serious bet in my life that hasn't been more than $1. But you know what? In a field like this, I just say scroll down to the bottom, choose your favorite username and go for it. Now, look, it's funny though. There are going to be, and I don't mean to offend anyone here, and Smatho, I've got to be careful because we're going to actually see people, So I've got to make sure I'm being nice to everyone here. But you know what? I think, again, don't want to offend anyone. There will be a few teams that will be dead in the water before the ball is bounced. Let's just say that. However, look, it's hard to avoid I like the top 5 markets. I think there's a bit of value in the top 5 markets, definitely. If you scroll down to the bottom, even top 10 as well. Whelan, $4 for top 5. That seems like a good bet. Lampy and Brody as well. Moncray guy has had a fantastic season. So off the map, definitely he's had a great season there. He has had a couple of wins and a couple of podium finishes as well. He's always around the mark. And then if we go to people who are traditionally really strong AFL players who maybe haven't had the best seasons themselves, like I think about JK, who hasn't had a great season, but definitely knows his stuff. Sunke is always, does well on these he's a big game player. He's the Dusty Martin Sunke of the DFS world. But then we scroll down, and it literally could be anyone's game. I think that's what is going to be so exciting about this live event that, there are, 213, is it? Or 210 contestants. How many of those, Smatho, have double chances?
Yes, so we do have 57 ticket holders with a second ticket, leaving 153 with just the one.
Excellent. So, think about that when you're laying your bets if you are using this market. And as always, gamble responsibly.
Excellent. Thank you, Rudy, for that tagline. Thank you very much. So that is at playup.com.au. If not, hit the Draftstars lobby, hit the banner there, and they will take you straight to the markets. All right, second point of business tonight. Obviously, we've got to have a shout out. Every week we've been saying g'day to our live final winners, and obviously there were 7 winners last week who are coming to Melbourne on Sunday. So shout out to these guys. J Mill 99, Brody 23, long and deep. You can't say it slowly. You can't say long and deep. You got to say long and deep. Our KFC guy, KFC 121341. David from last year. I remember interviewing.
Do we know who KFC guy actually is, Smatho, or not?
Yes. If you get on Twitter and look up KFC 121341, there is obviously a live final interview with him last year. David, his name is. The reason why it's 121341 was actually his KFC login code when he was at work. So he actually worked at KFC. That was his staff code or something. It's kind of stuck. Cookies is coming as well. Wisso and Nigel 19 with the final ticket there. So there's our field for the $500,000 Draftstars AFL live final. Now, last point of business, and I was actually quite excited about this today. Obviously, I've been doing a lot of a bit of work behind the scenes. I'm not sure you've been caught up the news, Rudy. Now, let me show you this. After a hiatus of 4 years, season 7 of AFLW is coming soon to Draftstars. So we are back with AFLW. Starts Thursday next week for round 1. So obviously next week the AFL men's are in a bye round, so there's no actual AFL for the men, but the women start next Thursday, and we are super pumped to have daily fantasy contests on Draftstars for the AFLW. Now, Rudy, obviously you're a keen supporter of your Melbourne Demons. Do you follow your Demons in the AFLW?
Yeah, definitely do. I can remember going to one of the first trial matches of the AFLW was Melbourne Bulldogs on one of those breast cancer awareness nights. Double header was really, really great, and obviously been following the team really closely. And AFLW, it's a great product. Really does a lot of what community football, what the VFL used to do when it was and the reserves was up and running. So get out and support the women. Actually, got a few of my ex-students who are getting close to draft age. Look out for a couple of them. Maybe will be drafted not this year, but next year. A couple of absolute superstars who I reckon will definitely get drafted. But no, it's a great, also a great one to take the kids to as well. Really accessible, family-friendly footy.
Now, obviously, we're not mucking around the format here, so it's the same format, so the same 9 positions that you need to do, same salary cap. Majority of the games, obviously, they're quicker, only 2 hours. So, obviously, if you miss one, I'm sure there'll be one coming up straight away. So, yeah, check out the lobby. Obviously, next week, we won't have any contests up this weekend, but obviously for next week, AFLW on Draftstars, we're pretty pumped to have it. So we've done a lot of work behind the scenes to get it back with us. So make sure you support the product here at Draftstars. And obviously, Davis, the fantasy rankings will be obviously providing some guidance and advice through the season 7 of AFLW. All right, that's the 3 things I wanted to talk about. There's your time to shine. So let's bring up the Draftstar slate for the Lions and the Demons at the Gabba, 7:50 p.m. start, $70,000 prize pool, just over $6,000 for first place. It's actually 28 degrees in Brisbane tomorrow. It's a bit random in the middle of August, so lucky ducks up there. Coolish night, so there might be a bit of dew, so I'm not sure that factors into your calculations there, but it probably doesn't. But now a bit of money's come for the Lions since teams came out, so they're into around $1.70, Melbourne around $2.05. In terms of team news, not much really. Ryan Lester was a sub for the Lions last week, but he's not required in the 22, but be likely to get another Guernsey in the vest. And for the Demons, James Jordan will not be in the 22, but he'd probably likely be the medical sub for the Demons on Friday night. So don't really have to say too much. Well, obviously the player that does come in, Rudy, is James Harms. And I think James Harms does factor in this fantasy slate, though.
Yeah, definitely. I can't remember, Smatho, the last time we had almost nothing to talk about with the team changes, but definitely this is kind of one of those nights. So yeah, Harms comes in for James Jordan, who's been playing well but deserves a bit of a rest, I think. Been a bit sloppy with some decision-making in the last couple of games. But Harms, the thing that's really made him like an absolute lock pretty much, especially in your cash lineups, is the fact that his price has been decimated by 2 weeks as a sub. So he's got 2 zeros against his name, which the algorithm has recognised as red flag there. So he's gone down to 8-8, I think it is, or is it 8-3? Let me check. 8-8, yeah. He's gone down to 8-8. Last played at 10 something, or maybe even 11. So definitely he's an absolute bargain play. Smatho and I were just talking off air about whether we thought that Harms would tag. We'll get into that when we go through the midfielders. But the other thing that's going to really make his ownership sky high is that he has dual position. Not quite sure how he's managed to snag the forward position there. That's a bit strange. But yeah, definitely he has the DPP status for this slate at that price. Yeah, absolute lock of the night in terms of cash. And I think he's definitely a tournament play as well at that price. All you need is a 70-80 from him, which is pretty much what he gets these days. Brayshaw has been playing the midfield more in the weeks that Harms has missed. But he did go and tag Neil. Well, we'll see what happens when we talk about the midfield. But apart from that, you know what? This is going to be a great game. A lot of the line for both teams. I was listening to SEN the other day, and Waitley said there's like 288 combinations of how the finals could turn out. It's going to be a fascinating week for Melbourne. What's on the line is quite simple. Double chance. Win and there's a double chance. Lose and it's gone. And it's pretty much similar situation for Brisbane as well. So there's a lot on the line here. And as a Melbourne supporter, my old man said, "Hey, is everyone coming over for dinner?" And I said, "Mate, I'm just watching it by myself tonight." Yeah.
No, I can understand that. This is the time of year that you want to pray and cross your fingers and be left alone.
So definitely,
and play Draftstars as well. So now, as always, we do reference the tools here at Daily Fantasy Rankings. Obviously, the free resources there. I've brought up the points against tool. Now, also, there are some themes that we'll probably say from a few weeks ago. I think it was last month we previewed this game. So nothing really new in terms of what's happened between last time they played and here. But as we always go along, Melbourne seems to, does leak fantasy points down to the backs. Brisbane don't. Brisbane midfielders seems to be okay. Melbourne midfielders are around that middle as well. So they will go head to head. And in terms of the forwards there, again, seems to be in the middle of the road there. So obviously Brisbane don't much, and obviously Melbourne they're 69 to their premium forwards in the last 5. So there's not much going on up forward. So it's obviously just the Melbourne backs. And then always it's a tough matchup against Max Gawn as always. So they're at dailyfantasyrankings.com.au. But let's get stuck in the slate, Rudy. As always, start the rucks. 4 options for this slate on Friday night. Obviously led by Max Gawn at $15,000. Oscar McInerney at 12-1. Lukey Jackson at 10-5. And Daniel McStay at 9-2. McStay down the bottom only had a 52 last week up forward against the St Kilda. Just the 1 goal offered in that. Lukey Jackson seems to be very consistent now. There's another 70 point, which you kind of expect from him at that price. The Big O, he's gone pretty well, 95, 105 in his last 2, and it seems to be an interesting price there at 12-1, whereas Max Gawn, you know what you're going to get there at 15,090. So as we say on these Melbourne slates, if you go with Gawn, you have to make sacrifices somewhere in your team. So are you targeting Big Max on the big stage here on Friday night?
I don't know that I'm targeting him, but of course on single slates, he also always needs to be in your calculations. I'm probably less keen on him as I usually am on single slates. I think usually on single slates, it's pretty much get him in and see what you can work in around him. But definitely less keen on him tonight. Only reason is that Yeah, I just think the price, he's been under 5. I know he's only just on 5 now, but to get the value that you're going to need, you really do need that massive game. And oh my gosh, it was just so painful watching our gameplay again last week, especially in that last quarter of just kicking it down the line to max. With Melbourne's kind of forward line not being as tall as it has been previously. So you've only got really Ben Brown to think of and Luke Jackson. There's no Tom McDonald, hasn't been for ages. So that kind of lets Harris Andrews wander up the field a bit more. It's kind of easier to double team Max and Jacko on the wing. So yeah, just a little bit less keen on Max than I usually would be. Take that as you will. But definitely, it's a no-brainer. He has to be in some of your teams. OMAC has been doing really well. Just a side note, these guys used to be teammates. OMAC is a product of the Melbourne Casey team. And so Max and OMAC know each other well. And so that's just interesting by side note, really. Oscar has been doing well since he's the only ruck now that Darcy Fort isn't in the team. And can I just say, Smatho, I'm really glad that a lot of teams are ditching the 2 ruck option. It only works for teams where they actually have 2 good ruckmen who offer something different around the ground, like Mason Cox and Darcy Cameron up forward, obviously Luke Jackson, but Richmond, Soldo and Nankervis just stopped doing it, and also Darcy Ford. I think Brisbane have really realised that they need that extra run that they were missing when Darcy Ford was in the team. So Oscar, look, against Max, I don't think he's going to dominate, but can he get an 80 or 90 at 12 and put you in a really good position? Definitely he can. I'd almost have a little bit more Oscar than Max just to be a little bit weird with that one tonight. But Jacko, look, just one note on Jacko tonight is that don't go searching for the last game against the Lions for that amazing 125 because Max didn't play in that game. Okay, so Jacko was solo rucking that night and he was just like, doing everything that we know that Luke Jackson can. So chase the 70 for sure, but don't chase the 125. That's not happening again. And Daniel McStay, I was pretty heavy on McStay last week, which was my own fault. And he didn't come through with the goods. However, if I reckon he's a decent play in teams where you think that Brisbane is going to win. He's a good option just to try and get maybe like a 70-80 out of him at just around 9 and then use the cash somewhere else to get a bit different. Maybe go for a midfield stack that people won't be able to do if they go to Max.
Who's his matchup in terms of he's going up forward?
Who's that?
McStay.
Yeah, so if you've got, I always just go by height, so basically I think May will probably take McStay and then Petty. It's really hard because you got Danaher, who really no one matches up well against Danaher, and really the way that you play that is having Lever as the spare in front. And so the ball just can't get to Danaher. So I think that May stays back and takes McStay, or Danaher if he plays in the forward line. But Brisbane have been mixing things up too. So traditionally, like Eric Hipwood is roaming a lot more up the ground since he's come back from his injury. So it'll be interesting to see the way they match up. But I'd say May stays at the fullback so he can control everything. Petty takes the most dangerous forward option, who's actually, doing well on the night, and then Lever just floats across as usual. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. Let's move on to defence, and seems to be some cheaper options here this week. But we'll start from the top here. Angus Brayshop having a great season, 123 last week at 15,220. I just think more ownership is just going to start piling on him, considering his consistency. Like he's in the mold now of Doherty and obviously peak Lloyd back from a couple of years ago. Like we're banking on 100 from him. So at 15.2, he's available there. Daniel Rich is still teasing us, 12,930. Did go with a 97 last week, which is fantastic. Coleman, again, more burn. So I'm interested in your thoughts there at 12,000 shortly. And then Christian Salem, his price is starting to come down. And look at that. I think 104 and 99 and 11,580. He's going to appear in quite a few teams if you don't go higher up here the three above him. So let's talk about this top four to start with, Rudy. Angus Brayshop, you're banking him, you're locking him, you're trying to get to him.
I wouldn't say I'm locking him, but definitely, very, very keen on him. He'll feature in a number of my lineups for sure. He is like I always think that I'm quite unbiased when I talk about my demons, Smatho, but when it comes to Brayshaw, he's my favourite player. Like I just got to put that out there. Brayshaw is my favourite player. He just reads the play so well. He's not the flashiest player. He just does his job, but his ability to read the ball and to get to good positions is so underrated. I know that people rate him. I know they do, but not a lot of people watch him. Just do me a favour and watch a game of Brayshaw. He's unbelievable. So his marking ability, interesting, like that massive score from last week. He only took 3 marks. But he just got around to the back of every pack kind of thing. The move to the midfield, you're basically paying 15 for a top line midfielder, which if you're considering Petrarca and Neil and those guys, you have to consider Brayshaw. And I think there's enough value to fit him in, even with the Gawn team. So we keep going down. If you want to keep the trend going of defenders against Melbourne, then your distributors in Rich and Coleman need to be considered. Coleman's price rising somehow, I think, from last week, even though his scores have been going down. He's killing me in my season-long teams. I've got a grand final coming up, and I'm just can't pull the trigger on playing him this week, which means he's going to go for 100. You just know it. But yeah, so if I'm going for Brisbane guys, I'm probably going to go down the price scale just a little bit. Salem, do you know what? The last time that we spoke about Salem, I said he's done. And since then he's actually bounced back quite amazingly. So maybe he's actually a subscriber. I don't know. We'll see how we go. Salem should be considered at that price with his recent performances. I think that Brisbane do win this game. I'm sorry to tell myself that, but I think the ball will spend a fair bit down their forward line. So Salem, I actually don't mind a Salem Brayshaw combo. Just to go against, I know they'll be highly owned. Don't get me wrong, but I just think that not a lot of people will play them together because people will still want access to those Brisbane defenders to take advantage of the matchup, and also maybe people will pay down a lot for defenders on this slate to stack the midfield. If we keep going down the tree, Starcevic, not so much for me. I think there are better options at around a similar price. One of those is Stephen May. Like I said, I think the ball will be down there quite a lot. I just think that even though they do have a tall forward line, I think that May will still have a chance to get some intercept marks. So Stephen May is on my list, as is, I think, a lot of these kind of lower price guys. Hibbard, not so much Ainsworth, even though he did have a good game last week. Jack Payne, I don't know why I always consider him in these games, but it's interesting to note that Melbourne, if you check the daily fantasy ranking stats, you'll see that Melbourne do give up one of the highest uncontested marks stats. So I think we're ranked third. I think we give up an average of 90 a game or something like that. So I don't know if you want to bring that up, Smatho, but so Melbourne gives away quite a lot of uncontested marks, and it just makes sense. They're in the back line. Like, we let people move the ball forward quite a lot, so then we can set up the zone 2 kicks back on the wing, basically. So Jack Payne could be considered. And also,
for you, Rudy. 90 uncontested marks conceded per game, which is number one.
Number one, are we?
Bulldogs.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, sure. There we go. 90 per game. Oh my God! Jesus, when you say it, that's just a lot of marks. That's crazy. No wonder we're not doing well. Look, you just have to consider these guys. If you think that's going to be the game script, like Darcy Gardner, the walking injury, the walking Band-Aid. I think you missed like half the game last week on the bench, but again, at that price point, Harris Andrews, they just have to be considered. The other guy who really was amazing last week, it didn't get a lot of attention for it, was Jaden Hunt. I thought he had his best game for the club in many years, including setting up the last goal. So, there's a lot of options. I think just click on if you're using the cruncher, just click them on your shortlist and then just play around with the combinations that you get.
All right, let's move on to midfield. Clayton Oliver, yeah, great price there at 17,030. Had a huge game against them back here. Did he play against them? No, he hasn't. Oh, yes, he did. 102 there with 21 handballs. At 17,030, you will probably need 120 plus to obviously pay off that particular salary. Hugh McCluggage, 16,090, but off an average game of 76 last week. Jack Viney's there at 15,700, and Lockie Neal at 15,120 after being tagged by the Saints last week, which obviously gives a blueprint again to the Demons. As Roody has already alluded to, Neal did get tagged by Harms last time they met as well. So let me scroll back up to the top, Roody. Let's talk about these top 4 or 5 and your thoughts on each of these players, please.
Look, it's the first time I did, I actually kind of avoided most of these guys just to go with a bit more of a balanced lineup and see what happened. I mean, obviously you've got, the first 5 guys just have, and even, well, maybe not Zorko this season and Lyons this season, but the first 5 guys just have gigantic ceilings, Does Harms go straight to Neal, or, I mean, he only went to Neal after the second quarter or during the second quarter last time. So does Melbourne back themselves in? Like, I think that you kind of, by tagging Neal, you have to kick out one of them, So you have to kick out Brayshop or Viney or Petrarca. And I just think you lose too much. I think it's a really defensive mindset to go in and tag straight away. I think Melbourne's strength, one of the only things that's still working is our centre clearances. So I think that if you tag Neal straight away, I think you're basically saying, okay, you guys can have the ball now, So I think that Neal is still in contention. He's on my shortlist for that reason. I don't think they tag him straight away. Melbourne's midfielders, I'm actually expecting. Ooh, someone's doing burnout sitting street there, Smatho.
Typical Hobart night.
Melbourne's midfielders just went completely missing after half-time last week. Petrarca was hardly to be seen, so I was expecting a bit of a get-well game for Viney and Petrarca. Oliver, I think that is this going to be a Brownlow showdown night, Smatho, where either Neal, Neal could basically, if Neal's best on ground, he's got it. I think that a lot of us are really backing the Neal low in already. But if he's best on ground, I reckon he almost pretty much throws it up. Oliver, I don't think he's going to win the Brownlow, but a 3-voter here. Are players driven by that? I don't know. Like, they say they're not in their presses and they do the team thing, but Clayton Oliver's a, arrogant kind of guy. So anyway, getting off track here, they're all in play. McCluggage, I think, is the one who I think will be probably less owned than anyone else. And I really do like this guy. I've said that before. So a McCluggage game, I'm looking, definitely him. Petrarca at 14. Wow, that's a pretty low price for Truck. Lowest he's been for quite some time. And really, apart from a couple of low games, he hasn't been too bad fantasy-wise. He just hasn't done much to impact the game for me recently. Definitely not having as good a year as he was last year, that's for sure. But my my eyes are drawn to this group of 12K players, Zorko and Lyons, just a really steady floor, which I like, especially on these single slates. You don't always need to shoot for the stars. If you drop, if you don't have Petrarca, Neal, or Clary, or McCluggage, and you just go for a really balanced midfield, you can get 90s and still push for 850 to 870 and still try and get a win that way, and just hope that all of the high-priced midfielders bomb, or go for a cheaper midfield and then get Brayshaw and Salem in. And there's my 120, 100. So that's the team that I built first. So don't forget that Melbourne is a slightly more positive matchup for midfielders than the other way around. So I think that going for Brisbane midfielders is probably the plus EV option. And then you go down to the real mid-price guys. Jared Berry won't be owned, but, wouldn't surprise me if Melbourne has a knack of of making these guys good. Like bloody who kicked. We made Jamara look like the Wayne Carey, and then Jack Martin kicked 3 goals in a quarter. And they've both done nothing since. So,
Yeah.
okay, Jack Martin only played last week. But you know what I mean? So we have this habit of making guys look like they're superstars. Rayner seriously looked like a superstar last week. My God, that was kind of like his last quarter was just awesome, absolutely awesome. So he'll be on my short list for sure. Ed Langdon, man, this guy's gone off the boil. Absolutely off the boil. I don't know if you've been watching Melbourne games, but these dinky little handballs on the wing, oh my God, they're infuriating. Just like, back yourself and run and kick the ball, son. Like, so Ed Langdon's not on my list tonight. Zach Bailey, like I said, if Jack Martin kicked 3 in a quarter against us, what could Zach Bailey do? Like, he could kick 10, So definitely, if you think Brisbane's going to win, Zach Bailey should be in your lineups. Just be wary with Bailey. As always, he is extremely goal dependent. If he doesn't kick a bag, he is not scoring well. So just, if you track almost, I think it was only one game where he scored well, where he didn't kick a bag. So just be careful about Zach Bailey. Not much interest in Neil Bullen or Sparrow, but definitely, like we said, James Harms for sure. Probably the look at the slate, like we've said a couple of times. And then Reece Matheson, yes, he hasn't scored as well as that. He's not consistently getting 90s, but at 7.6, yeah, okay, I'll take a 60. I'll take a 70 at 7.6. No dramas, especially with a positive matchup against Melbourne. Matheson will definitely be in my team. Pryor has scored well. If you're considering Matheson, got to consider Pryor as well. And I think that Pryor will be lower owned than Matheson as well.
Very good. That was quite a substantial analysis there, Roody. Well done to you, mate. Let's move on to the forwards. Obviously, we've touched on these guys. To start with Zorko and Jackson, but Charlie Cameron's there at 10,240. He's just got a great floor. Seems to be involved in the play, and if he can score some goals, then obviously he can get a ceiling game there at 10-2. Cam Rainey, you've touched on. Obviously, he did look really good last week. That was a really good last quarter against the Saints, so that was quite enjoyable watching him. Lincoln McCarthy's there at 9,130. Again, he could be a bit of a slate breaker if you get him at low ownership, if he gets bobs up and gets 3+ goals. Kaiser Piggott at 8,520. Obviously, the match winner last week, 2 goals against the Blues. 8,520 seems to be a top price. And you touched on Hipwood too. Again, these forwards have actually got really nice floors for their prices. But as I said, there's nothing really jumping out unless you've got a real hot take in terms of who's going to break open this game and kick a multiple bag. You have to probably temper your expectations here.
Yeah, and it's tough because, like, if you do go for a Charlie Cameron, who I think is completely the game who can tear the part for Brisbane, we don't have a very good matchup for him. Really, you've got Trent Rivers. They'll probably put Hibbert on him at some stage as well. But yeah, I don't see an amazing matchup. And like I said about what's his name, Jack Martin, far out. I could like Lincoln McCarthy. He's that guy as well. He is completely that guy to tear us up, and then do nothing for the rest of the year. So look, it's kind of a hot take. Season in the forward line, all the way down the bottom though, Mr. Game Winner from last week, Jakey Milksham. Jesus, not a bad game to have when you're out of contract, is it? Me and the rest of my Melbourne mates have been like, I was just like disgusted when he was back in the team a couple of weeks ago. But he was literally a match winner last week. Not just his 4 goals, but he's the one who got that, turned that chaos ball into a contested goal, got the handball out to Cozzy, or Kaiser Pickett, as you just called him. And away we go. So Jakey Melksham at 6'9". You just you plug in Jake Melksham and who else is down there that I saw, someone like Hipwood or whatever. And you can stack your midfield. You can have a midfield stack and gone if you want to. That's not the option I'm going to go for, but you definitely could do that.
One player that I actually want to touch on myself because Jake Melsham's there at 6,960. For $10 more, you can get yourself some Joe Danaher at 6,970. As you can see, a 49 and a 28 there. So this game screams bounce back, low ownership. No one's going to touch him. I'm actually quite keen on him. Obviously, that price is pretty cheap. Usually, we got Jay Danaher at 10K throughout 2021 and probably at the early stages of 2022. So to get a 3K discount with the potential, of getting a 60 or a 70, and if you can break it open into an 80, 85, your lineup's going to look quite good against the opposition. So,
Smatho, you are the peanut butter to my jam because I didn't forget about Danaher. I actually had him in my very first team of the week. But yeah, 6'9", wowee. And like I said just before, we were talking about the matchups for mixed day. There is no real matchup for Danaher. Very few teams, apart from North Melbourne, with Mccarthy being as tall as he is, can match up well against Danaher. So what you're really hoping is that the rest of that Melbourne back six zone just stop the ball coming in. But yeah, he could definitely just chime in with an easy 3-goal 70 and you're done.
Now, Rudy, while you're tinkering with your lineups, I've actually prepared a lineup for myself because it's not really great. It's not really great audio if you listen on the podcast. And shout out to our podcast listeners, where you just like fumbling around trying to make a team while I'll do that. So this is what my kind of like a single entry kind of cash team. If you kind of play your head-to-heads, double ups, things like this is the cash team of the week, and I'll explain why. James Hunt's in my forward line with the tag potential. That means it's going to be around stoppages, midfield. I hope he does it at 8.8. I talked about Joe Danaher at 6.9. You just can't ignore that price. That's way too cheap considering what he's been doing in the past. As for my midfielders, I have gone a little bit cheap here in the midfield. So I've actually gone Ed Langdon to bounce back a little bit. Christian Petrarca at 14,260 is my premium midfielders. I can't seem to get up to these higher ones here. I've also gone the barometer at 7.6 at Reece Matheson. I think you can just take that cheaper price and move on. And look, you've been talking up who's going to ruin you. I think Zach Bailey is the man who's possibly going to ruin you this week and bob up for multiple goals. So therefore, I've spent up quite big with Max Gawn as my ruckman. I've gone to Angus Brayshop. I just can't ignore him at 15,220 and his his floor there. And that leaves me enough money for Daniel Rich, which obviously I can tap into the data there in terms of, if Melbourne are going to let people chip mark around the back, then Daniel Rich is the man. If not, I can come down to Colvin and then obviously upgrade Petrarca to someone else if I'm going to play multiple lineups. So yeah, so that's my cashy team of the week, my double up. Just get in there, double your money, and move on. Rudy, your turn.
Don't mind it. Yeah. So as normal, hey Smatho, I'm feeling lonely. Have we not had any comments tonight?
MC came here with a Cozzy comment, which is fantastic for him to join in. But I think everyone's just buying their time for Sunday, mate. I think they realise this. Maybe. But, shout out to our replay viewers, though.
Cool. So of course I've been changing my team as we go along. Can I just say to our finalists on Sunday, don't change team. Don't have team change regret. There's probably only one thing worse than that is just going with your gut. Got to go with your gut on these big money tickets, So my team of the week for this game, I've gone for Luke Jackson in the ruck, please, Smatho. Just like what he brings around the contests. And I don't want to go to Oscar. I don't want to go to Max in this particular lineup. So I'm going to go for Lukey. And then give me that combo that I was talking about earlier of Angus Brayshop and Christian Salem. I think that it's definitely going to be a very unique and some might say crappy combination. And it's perfect position for Salem to regress back to his 60s. I'll go to the forward line next, and I'll go for the double down of Melksham and Danaher. Please just can't resist either of those at their prices. And then got a little bit of cash to throw around in the midfield. I'm going to go down again to Harms and Matheson. And then I'll go up to Jack Viney and Hugh McCluggage, just to give me hopefully a little bit of difference. Yeah, I think that is a really, really nice tournament team. The other options I had for another team was basically putting Maxi in, taking those high-priced midfielders out and going for Lyons and Zorko for those safe 90s, basically. But definitely, even though we don't have any bottom price players, you can have 10K teams. You can have a whole range of different options. This one, I haven't looked much at the Sunday slate yet, but this would be a really good live final contest as well, Smatho. This would be really, really interesting.
Now, speaking of live final, obviously I managed to get Roody on the door list, so he will be coming in the doors at the Timber Yard on Sunday afternoon.
You said ticket. You said no. Don't go rewriting history. You told me I had a ticket. Like a golden ticket. You just meant a no. Far out, mate. I thought you said a golden ticket.
No, just your name on the list. So you can come inside and you can sit next to me and catch up, and we'll do a live edition of the Draftstars AFL show live from the Timber Yard, approximately around 2:15 p.m. on Sunday. So we'll get together, we'll get in front of the camera and get a mic on, and we'll chat the atmosphere of the build-up for the Draftstars AFL live finals. Hopefully we might be able to get a couple of people to say good day and get them on the live stream at the time. But now I'll leave it up to you, Roody, just to take the reins there of DFR HQ and make sure you get around the people and get them up and say good day to everyone, and obviously provide a bit of a backdrop to the day. So I'm looking forward to you catching up with you on Sunday, which will be awesome, and obviously looking forward to catching the winner of the live final. Exciting. $150,000, Roody. 150.
Yeah, it's crazy. What? After a couple of years of COVID, the virtual finals were great. They didn't quite cut it for me. So now it's going to be a great day on Saturday. Looking forward to catching up with people, looking forward to seeing who takes home that life-changing 150K.
All right, so stay tuned to our socials at RankingsDFS is the DFR, and obviously at DraftStars AU. Roody, look to see you on Sunday, mate. And thank you to all of our viewers. A bit of a like on the way out. Subscribe to the obviously DFR channel, and obviously keep an eye on the socials for the weekend. Plenty of stuff coming your way for this weekend. As I said, AFLW, the play up live final betting market, it's all there. Big week. We'll see you Sunday, Roody. Thanks very much, mate.
No worries. See you Sunday.